Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Boys, in the mayor's office, hanging with those who are doing the darn thing. And well, my guest and I have crossed paths in a way you didn't think before, because a long, long time ago, I thought I had skills to play classical guitar, but it wasn't the case. But my guest does it so well. Please give it up for Jonathan Taylor. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Good to meet you. Finally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually a real person. I'm not an algorithm. Before we went live, even before I hit my first question, we're talking about the West Indies because my parents are from Barbados, but you've been, and so you were able to.
So is Beyonce, isn't she?
Rihanna's from Barbados. Rihanna's from Houston, I believe. But what's been your experience out there in the West Indies, man?
I love the West Indies. It's one of my very favorite places. I played in Frank Collymore Hall there. The American government, I was like America's musical ambassador to where we set up master classes there, played concerts there, because Crop Over Festival, as you know, and had many groups in that. And so did lots of stuff there for the American government. I played a concert at the ambassador's residence, raised about $25K for the Special Olympics. Wow. And with all the glitterati UN delegates and all the, what shall we say, the glitterati of the culture, right? And so I love Barbados. It's one of my very favorite. I played there many times.
So let's take a step back. You are a man of many talents, but the first talent I came across was your guitar skills. And well, no one tells me about how many calluses you need to be a guitarist, but what was your original moment when you're like, this is actually the instrument I can use to show people my talents as a musician?
Well, you know, honestly, I was like 4 years old and I'd be walking around the house with a ukulele trying to pick tunes out. Now, my grandmother, and what is the influence? My grandmother was a silent film organist that was extremely popular in her day, played with all the stars you know of that era. Charlie Chaplin, Keystone Cops, what's the great stone face? Buster Keaton. And Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces, and also a lot with Harry Houdini. And so when people say, your grandmother played with Harry Houdini, I go, all the time. I go, he was out, you know, of course, he's an East Coaster like yourself. And, but he would tour the Pacific Northwest, and she would be working for Fox, who owned the Orpheum Circuit, which was a vaudevillian circuit before films became, talkie films became the big whoop-de-doo, right? And I go, you would be playing a silent film of the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne novel. And, you know, that would be the background. Of course, in Houdini's case, he'd be, you know, locked in with the chains in the water, you know, and he's going to die and, you know, all that. And she'd be, da, 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 right, dramatically doing his performance. So the background initially, I think, was from me hearing music since, you know, came out of the womb. And then later on, I heard Andre Segovia, the great classical guitarist of the last 100 years. And I saw him in concert when I was 16 and listened to his recordings before at Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in downtown Los Angeles, and couldn't believe not just the beauty of the guitar, but polyphonic, many voiced, as the technical prowess is, you know, the hardest instrument in the world to play. And I don't say that because I'm a player, but because I'm an orchestral composer and know all the other instruments as well. And what was the Heifetz used to say, the hardest instrument in the world to play is the violin, with the exception of the classical guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so even though it's difficult, I go, I used to train violinists when I was a teacher at the Newport Institute of the Arts in Orange County, California. And violinists would say, how do you do all the double stops, meaning the dyads, triads, tetrachords? We just call them chords commonly. And I go, well, that's part of the thing. And of course, a violinist is not doing that, only occasionally, right? Only occasionally are they doing dyads, like Bach Chaconne or something. I go, usually it's single string.
Sure.
So as you know, as a guitarist yourself. So, you know, I wanted to not only master the instrument and do all the masterpieces, which I've recorded. I have 32 albums, and I have an application, by the way, that you can download for free. It's free. Did I say it was free?
How much is it?
Yeah. How much is it? Yeah. So, and I go, you can go to Google Play if you're an Android user, or or iOS, Apple Store if you're Apple phone, iPhone, and just type Jonathan Taylor, no space, and it'll immediately pop up, and it's for free. There's all sorts of performance videos, audio files, posts, all sorts of good stuff.
Let the record say I'm actually a failed guitar player. So like I've tried and failed about that. Because I wanted to. First, I was acoustic, and I will tell you one. I studied abroad one semester. I was in Costa Rica. Not to flex, as the kids say, but that was the first time I remember. There was a group called Strunja Farah, and they had dropped a new album, and I heard a classical guitar album, like an entire expression throughout many tracks. So because there's classical gas, you know what I mean. But but this was the first time I was like, oh my god.
And Mason Williams was a writer on the Tommy Smothers Brothers show. Tommy just died, of course, right? And I go, well, Mason Williams was basically a writer on that show. So go on, I interrupted you.
Yeah, but it just, I've never saw such a long form expression with an instrument. So I came back from Costa Rica, I'm going to be the next Strunja Farah, and that lasted 6 weeks. You have dedication, I don't, sir. So
yeah. Well, and you asked about calluses, so I'll tell you off the air. So I'll tell you a little something. I go, well, you don't really you only develop a little bit, and why is that? And I go, most people develop too much calluses. And why is that? And I go, because they're putting too much pressure on the string, and that can build up tension, and of course develop more calluses. So when people say, do I have calluses? I go, not that much more than what an average person would have.
Right. Oh man, I just love
a little bit, because you're touching, and it has to be a little that the dermis puts up that protection.
So talk to me. You go to parties and someone's already have a basic familiarity of what you do. You drop the app, which is available now. Make sure you download it. What do people ask? What do you do? They say, are you having fun? They say you have a real job. Are they on board with you? Is it kind of hard for them to fathom being able to be a musician and travel these gigs?
That's a great question. Yes. I think it's hard because music was taken out of the schools, right? Mm-hmm. Mostly. And I go, well, that's really the birth of rap, Right. The kids wanted to make music and they didn't have any means to do so, because the orchestras or choir were pared down to very minimal in schools. And I go, well, the birth of rap is that, because I go, well, they want to make music and you haven't given them instruments and instruction. So they created that art form for themselves. I go, what are they to do? If you can't teach them violin because there's no money for the budget, I go, they'll think of something.
What have you done during lean times when the gigs aren't coming and you're practicing the best you can, but things are not lining up? Did you have to go day job life? Did you eat bread sandwiches? Well, how did you navigate?
Yeah. So to answer that, I was very fortunate to have a very successful concert career and recording career. But when you're talking about lean times, I actually have a California real estate broker's license. I studied businesses. I owned different businesses. I owned a personnel service that I started on $0 and got it up to a $3 million billing in about 14 months. Oh, wow. And I did that by just walking the industrial sections and knocking on doors. And so do I have a background other than classical guitar? Yes. And that was business. And so during lean times, as you're saying, well, think about it. In the 90s, the whole music industry, the recording industry was destroyed by the MP3 file. Mm. Once you got off vinyl and tapes and CDs and people were downloading the MP3s, Napster came up. And you would download all these bootleg albums. And so I go, well, that actually destroyed the record industry until Steve Jobs came along and said, you can put it all on this iPod. And he told the musicians, you're going to get 99 cents a song. And many of the musicians were upset. And he said, well, then you'll get nothing. They wanted the whole album to be sold. So what I'm getting at is that when the industry made its transition in the 90s, I believe in always jumping on, like AI, for instance, is a new technology, of course.
Sure.
And I go, well, I knew that digitally that I had to record everything digitally and that analog was dead because of the MP3 file and how it was distributed now with streaming and all that downloads, as you know. So I had the foresight to realize a lot of people resist those things. I go, you can't resist the change in technology. It's just like AI.
Right.
I go, it'll be everywhere. It's already everywhere.
True.
Yeah. And which we said off the air, I go, tremendous upside. They can map a protein. It takes 5 years for a human being to map one of the proteins inside your body. There's thousands of them, probably millions. And I go, it took 10 minutes for the AI. And why is that important? I go, because now you can create a medicine to react with that protein and cure or prevent or slow down or improve, your medical condition. And that's a wonderful upside. The downside is, and I'm not trying to talk on and on here, but we're talking about that.
Right.
But I saw a video, and here's what I call the dark side of AI. I saw a video of this guy, about 5 technicians trying to train 5 humanoid-looking robots, putting the AI in them, training them to do household tasks.
Okay.
Right? Open a can, sweep the floor, whatever. Household, clean the dishes. And so they're opening a can, and one robot is about halfway through, and he's learning how to open a can. And another one is, doesn't know what to do. So it's a training session. The technicians are all there, standing with their lab coats and their, clipboards and pencil behind their ear. And so all of a sudden, I saw this one robot, and he picked up the can, and he threw it into the chest of the technician. And people say, well, was he thinking? I go, I have no idea what he was doing. All right. But I can tell you that if you were in the CIA, they'd say that's a threat. And why? And I go, because he has capacity. Right. He has the capacity to harm somebody. And I go, fortunately, the gentleman wasn't injured. It could have been just hard enough or broken his breastbone and stopped his heart. Right.
Yeah.
But so I go, there's a downside to the AI. Right.
Sure.
There's the downside. Or, you can't even know what's true anymore and what to trust because they can write articles. They write articles and then they do these citations. And one of them I saw, all the citations were false.
Oh, wow.
Like saying I got this information from, the New England Medical Journal, right? But it's not in there and it's all fake.
Do you use AI with your creations? No,
I don't. But the record company, I'm with Warner Brothers and Hit Lab, under contract with them for my just the last year I got with them. And they've released one. They're in the process of releasing another one of my albums, the Guitar Chronicles album. If you just type Jonathan Taylor guitar into Google, you'll find all sorts of stuff. But my Guitar Chronicles albums they release, and I go, and what are they doing to promote it? I go, they use AI.
Okay. Wow.
AI kind of finds where the listeners are, right? Like it could be in Thailand or it could be in Barbados, it could be anywhere. It doesn't, Japan. And it finds out these people like this type of music. And it's different than the algos in the last few years. It's different. It's a more sophisticated way of presenting the musical material to the people to either reject it or accept it.
When I assume you get to go look at your charts and see where you're big, but is there a country or a part of the world that surprises you? Like one of my podcasts, for example, it's huge in Angola. And I don't know why, but it always makes me chuckle.
Yeah, as an artist yourself, this is how artists are. They're always surprised. So am I surprised? I go, well, here's what I was surprised about. The age range. You would think, it's with classical. And by the way, we're going to talk about the different types of genres I do. But I go, you would think, oh, they're going to be 55 years old or something. I was surprised at the demographic. The demographic is 18 through 34.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So that's a young demographic. It's not grandma, right?
Right.
And so what I've done, though, and maybe this is part of the reason, and I'm being promoted as an indie artist, not a classical, that I think that I have 32 albums, that's 325 tracks, and across many genres. And what do I mean by that? And I go, well, for example, I have transcriptions I've done of pieces by Gershwin. There's jazz right there, right? Or by Scott Joplin, right? And those semi-jazz, ragtime pieces are very different than, let's say, a Spanish masterpiece, Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Tárrega, Or I've also transcribed, believe it or not, psychedelic pieces on guitar, transcribed for solo classical guitar, and I've transcribed film scores. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, I took, transcribed part of that film score and the pieces that the songs that from it. And American Folk Songs, I've taken the James Bond films and done some of their themes and put it in there. It's on that Guitar Chronicles album.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads to my next question. When you come to, because you said over 30 albums, 32 albums, over 300 tracks, is the situation where you get inspired for a certain song and goes, oh, that'd be good for this project? Or is it kind of like, hey, look, you know what? I haven't done a film score album in a while. Let me start with the album concept first and find songs to fill in.
It's usually that I hear something and I said, that would work, and then sometimes they don't work, to be honest. I go, well, I've also got half-finished pieces. I go, this will not work. It's not going to adapt well, and that. So it's just on the back burner on the shelf, right? So I usually have to be moved by the song. I like it, or the film, or whatever, that I'm connected with it in some way. But I have appreciation of all genres of music. I mean, I love all types of music. So, I have albums that are like pieces from Poland,
Right.
All sorts of obscure stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess a project, is it done when it's done? Do you put yourself in a hard cycle of this time has to pass before this project is completed? Like, what is your process week to week when it comes to creating these projects?
Right. So right now I'm out here in Palm Springs. I live in Huntington Beach, California, but I spend a lot of time out here. Why? Filming. Right. And what am I doing? I'm filming performance videos, which are on my app, and maybe a lesson. And so I'm out here. My daily is I'm learning right now the Grand Jouet, which is like a 15-page piece. Probably 20 people in the world can play it. So it's a very complex, technically difficult piece and takes a long time to learn. It's on the level of like the Chaconne, the Grand Overture, Leyenda, and those are big masterpieces of the genre. And so right now my process is learning those pieces and filming.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Do you carve out a day and go, this is my normal practice time, or do you wait for the inspiration to strike? Like, how do you
I pretty much do when I feel like it, but I usually I probably play at least 40 minutes a day, but I don't necessarily have to play. I don't like it when I miss it more than one day playing. Right. I don't like it. I'm connected to that, and it's tugging at me. It's calling to me. Right? Yeah. Go play.
Yeah, that's always a good sign. That's about the life. And your neighbors are fine with that, or you have to soundproof your house, or what's the deal with that?
It's not loud. You probably couldn't hear it for more than a room.
Okay.
You're playing in a classical guitar, so it's not that loud.
Okay. Well, my next door neighbor here in this apartment complex has the acoustic, and I could totally hear him. But it's fine.
Oh, okay.
It's like
a big where I'm at here. It's big.
Yeah. Manhattan Beach is a cool vibe. On the Porto side, definitely in those old thick houses, you can probably you can probably scream in those rooms and no one really know. Right. Well, as we record this, it's January 2024, and you're already out in Palm Springs working and hustling. But do you have the roadmap for the next 12 months?
I'm working on uh, uh, a sync manager puts film tracks into films. So I'm starting to work on the sync stuff. I'm open to having new management. As the last 3 years, there's COVID. There's no such thing as concerts the last 3 years. I mean, now there is, but
Right.
I mean, for the last 3 years, nobody. The Rolling Stones didn't tour, right? I mean, nobody toured. So that and recording, uh, having the sync management stuff, and that's really what I'm up to.
When sorry, kind of a tangent now because you mentioned management. I mean, how is that? Is it difficult to switch management, or it's kind of like, you know what, you're not working for me, and I'm going to find that transition? Like, is that process? Is it get easier or harder with a body of work? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, I think that now that I'm kind of established, I mean, like you've seen the Pandora categories that he's an established artist. I have not had management for the past 3 years because I didn't really need it.
Yeah.
For anything. But now things are opening up. Obviously, things are back kind of to normal.
Yeah.
Right?
I gotta ask, and it's okay if you don't have an answer for this one.
Sure.
But what's been a performance where you just absolutely hated, man? Hype was real. People bought tickets. They all sat down for a concert, and you're like, "Dang, sorry, y'all."
Well, I didn't. There's nothing that I hated, but I can tell you that one performance, a stalker was trying to kill me.
Go on.
Yeah. So I was in India, in Madras, and I'd been already been in the country like 3 weeks because I did Bombay and Pune and other cities. And India is a giant country, as big as the US, right? So it's, long flight times, like if you were to go to New York from here, right? So there are ruins in Madras from the ancient Mughal emperors that were there, 10,000 years or whatever. And I went down, I had a driver that was taking me down. India is a country that really has the infrastructure that the British put there. There's not really much infrastructure made after the British left in 47.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, everything's like Art Deco. Everything is like a British, what are they, cricket clubs.
Yeah.
Right. And I go, so I was being taken down. There was a concert that night, and during the day, the concert was going to be held at a replica of Albert Hall, a perfect replica of Albert Hall in London, and it's a great concert for about 5,000 about. And so I was being taken down by this driver to see these ruins, which were probably 50 miles south of Madras. And he was unfortunately mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, by his behavior, we had lunch on the beach and looked at the ruin. I could tell he was aggressing, and he was, and I kind of, even though I felt sorry for him because of his mental illness, I knew my life was in danger. So I let him know that if he tried anything, he'd pay a price.
Okay.
Even though I'm a very gentle person, I'm not going to allow somebody to kill me.
Right. Yeah.
And also I may be a little tougher than I look. So so that night, as we got back, I told the promoters, and I would never betray a promoter. I'm a very, dutiful and integrity person. I would never, go back on my word with anything. But I told him, I said, that guy is effing nutso, and he's out of his mind. And I will not play the concert if he's there, because I know he'll try to kill me.
Oh, wow.
And they were in total agreement with everything I was saying, and apologetic and all that. And I go, it's not your fault, So I've had many, many adventures. I have a little series on the app that is called Adventures in Touring, because I've been everywhere. And I met like the head of JPL. I've played in, Romania, in the Philippines, in the Amazon, in many strange and diverse places, not just Europe and America, North America.
Well, first question: did you pay the concert or no? I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Okay. I wasn't sure. They were kind of like the show was
well, they
canceled
guaranteed
or
they
okay.
say, yes, of course you're right, and so they were on
Okay.
the lookout and all that stuff. It's fine,
Okay. And a
but
lot
it
of
wouldn't
time.
have been fine if he would have been there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you thought your life was in danger. On the show, though, we ask all of our guests the following question because it dovetails what you just said. Do you still have a travel bucket list? And if so, what countries are left on it?
I've never been to Amsterdam.
Oh, fitting.
I've never been to Amsterdam.
Yeah, there's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. I'd like to go to Amsterdam. I'm trying to think of the country. I've never been to Spain.
Really? You would
Yeah,
think that's like number
Spain.
one.
Yeah, I've never been to Spain. I've been a lot of places, Greece and Germany and France and England, and I haven't been to Ireland either. But do I have? I love the world. So I mean, I don't care. For instance, I've been all over Egypt, and Barbados, of course, and then Brazil, and so I'm open to going almost anywhere.
Absolutely. That is so much fun. Let's talk about future projects. Talk about your roadmap, but is there any album on the horizon we should be looking out for right now?
Yes. Right now there is they do like a 6-week promo thing on my album Psychedelic Love that will be released in, let's say, I don't know, March, let's say. And because they do a pre thing and before the actual release date. And so that's coming up, and that is really and I have videos of them on my app of some of the pieces, not all of the pieces. And, for instance, I did a version of Ichiku Park and did a version of You Leave Me Hanging On. I mean, many things that you would say, what the hell does that have to do with classical guitar? And I go, one of the things in my youth, even though I loved all the classical guitar repertoire, this is not disparaging to it at all, but I always said, I go, yeah, but there's hardly any American music on it. Yes, there's some Gershwin. Yes, there's Scott Joplin. Okay, those are Americans. I go, but there's not that much. And so I took it upon myself to add to the classical guitar repertoire and transcribe pieces heretofore never adapted, like the Wizard of Oz piece, for example, or the James Bond pieces, and the American folk songs. I have an American medley 1, 2, and 3. 2 of them are on that Guitar Chronicles album, and there's a Bond medley, James Bond, of the 007 movies. Yeah. So let me explain it in one other, if I haven't been too long-winded here. I think that I'm what it's called a crossover artist. And that means even though I'm a classical guitarist and do all the masterworks, all the repertoire that people know, but I'll give you an example. Back in the day, there was a country artist named Hank Williams.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Played, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How about cooking up something up for me? Mm-hmm. And I go, but he was a niche audience, a very small audience, only country. And I go, well, that type of country is a very small audience. And then along came 30 years later, Glenn Campbell. And so people say, well, what do you mean by that? And I go, well, is Glenn Campbell country? Yes, but not really. Is he folk and rock? Yes, but not really. In other words, he crossed over the genres and made a new way. And I go, all the country people that are out there, most of them could not have existed without Glenn Campbell. Shania Twain, Garth Brooks, all these country people. I go, well, they're nothing like what Hank Williams was. Right. Their sound and their emphasis and their focus is totally different. So what I wanted to do, and am doing and have done with the guitar, classical guitar, is to take it out of a narrow niche and give it a wider repertoire. And
Yeah. And well, like most of us who play music, it's only a matter of time before a kid taps you on the shoulder and says, "Play a Bad Bunny," right?
right, right. Play Bad Bunny.
It's like
Right.
I DJ weddings. I still get that. Hey, play Bad Bunny.
Right. Bad Bunny was out here at Coachella. I've been out here filming. So Bad Bunny was out here at the Coachella thing, the festival here, a couple of months ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so they were pinning out here.
Yeah, it's going to be like you're going to hear it in all my epitaph as a DJ, wedding DJ. Play Bad Bunny. That's
yeah.
Well, Jonathan Dale, thanks so much for being on New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creative thinkers and doers. Now, here's the fun part. If someone wants to connect with you, talk with you, book you for an event, how do they go about doing that?
You just go to download the app, number one. And if you go to my Instagram, which is download the app, Jonathan Taylor, either from Google Play or from iOS, meaning Apple Store. And that's one thing to see background. Then if you go to my Instagram, I've got 13,000 followers on Instagram. And there is, you can message me on that. And that's JT Classical Guitar Mastery is the handle for Instagram. JT Classical Guitar Mastery.
Wow, 13,000 followers. Jealous. Thanks so much for being on the show.
But you're on your way. You're on
crossing fingers.